From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt. This is Weather or Not, and here we sit on a Wednesday, January 28th. You know, we had some flurries and snow showers this morning in eastern and northeastern South Dakota. Now that I think about it, I'll go ahead and bring up our website and show you a couple of the live cams able to pick up on these flurries and snow showers. Remaining very light, but enough to bring in at least some light accumulations for some of us across eastern South Dakota. One of those being Redfield. See if this live cam is able to pull this up. Let's go ahead and make this a little bigger on the web page, and there it is. You know, enough to coat the ground there in Redfield. Flurries, snow showers have moved through that area. You're going to find all these on our website too. Here's Aberdeen as we play this out, and I'll make that a little larger too. Might be able to get a couple of flurries or snow showers to move through this area during, I would say, probably as this show airs at 9:30. Northeastern KELOLAND, probably seeing a lot of this come to an end. Here's a look at our radar here, too. As you can see, this is a look at things 7:45. So let's go ahead and move that screen, and we can move the radar. See, it's around Sioux Falls to the southeast and northwest, so we may have some flurry snow showers this morning. You see much of northeastern South Dakota, looking to the northwest of Aberdeen. Doesn't seem to be much showing up there. So, again, I think as this airs, a lot of this will be east and southeast of Aberdeen. Let's see if I can bring up a couple other the webcams for you, too. Live cams, excuse me. Let's try Webster. Ooh, Webster showing clearing skies. So we are looking at some clearing coming in, too. So it looks like just during the morning hours, which, you know, kind of alluded to that for eastern and northeastern South Dakota to see these flurries and snow showers, maybe enough just to coat the ground, and then that's been about it. So futurecast by the afternoon, we'll try to bring in partly sunny skies, but it will remain cold, temperatures being below average, teens and 20s for highs. Let's go ahead and go full screen on futurecast because we do have snow showers and flurries in the forecast for western and central South Dakota for tonight. And tomorrow, I think the snow will be more persistent across western KELOLAND, especially into the higher elevations of the hills. They may see more persistent snow into those areas, which may eventually start to accumulate to bring in a couple of inches of snowfall by the time we do get into Friday morning. So we'll probably take a look at the live cams across western South Dakota tomorrow during KELOLAND this morning, especially Deadwood live cam. Nice to look at those every now and then, as well as Terry Peak, Rapid City. We'll see what we can find for snow across western KELOLAND tomorrow morning. Now, this is futurecast for Friday morning. Notice high pressure coming in from the north. That's another hit of some cold air. Okay, maybe not as strong as the very cold temperatures we had last week, but you will notice that cold air coming down as by Friday morning, we'll have wind chills in the minus teens and the minus 20s. So the winds will also be a little bit stronger, probably stronger than the numbers we'll have today. We'll have relatively light winds. Here's a look at the wind gusts. Hard to see any of these locations getting over 15 miles per hour for a wind gust. So we are looking at relatively light winds throughout the day today, but temperatures will remain cold. We'll have numbers only in the single digits and teens across eastern South Dakota as we'll bring in that sunshine. Again, that 20% chance you see in Aberdeen, that's for flurries and snow showers that have moved through this morning. 27 in Pierre today, 29 in Winter. Rosebud may hit 36. 41 today in Rapid City. Tonight, temperatures fall to the single digits on either side of zero. Notice how Watertown and Marshall were falling to 5 below, 7 below in Sisseton and Ortonville. And then temperatures probably teens, lower 20s across western South Dakota. Another cold day for tomorrow, as we'll have to watch maybe for some snow showers to move through western central South Dakota. Dry in eastern KELOLAND as temperatures will reach the teens for afternoon highs. Well, coming up on today's program, we'll talk about our snow chances ahead. You know, it's not only for western and central South Dakota. We'll also bring in some snow chances as we slowly warm these temperatures this weekend for eastern South Dakota. Cold temperatures, you know, these have been coming and going. It seems like when we look at that extended forecast, what looked earlier like we'll just go ahead and warm things up as we go through the month of February for at least the first week of the new month, we are now seeing some clues that, we may have to hold back by the time we get into Tuesday, Wednesday. There could be a weak wave in the atmosphere that can bring in some cooler temperatures and maybe even a chance for some snow showers. We'll talk about that coming up, as well as have our pattern for the next 2 weeks. So stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not, as we have a couple of days worth of snow chances, we'll call them, snow chances in our forecast. Starting across, this morning, eastern, southeastern KELOLAND with flurries and snow showers. But I think tonight into tomorrow, we'll probably have a chance at a couple of these flurries and snow showers to move through, enough to give us maybe around an inch of accumulation across western South Dakota. Some spots will get a little more than that. I think the best chance of seeing areas with a little bit more will probably end up being the higher elevations of the hill. So here's a look at our probability map. And this is always nice to bring out, just to give you a general idea as to where we have the best chances of getting some accumulating snow. And you do see that in western South Dakota. Those areas highlighted in red, that could be anywhere 70% chance and greater to see at least an inch of snowfall. And this will take us through Friday. Now, you do notice this is a little bit higher than what we had earlier this morning in Pierre. It's around 50%. Earlier it was coming in, I think, 38, 39% chance. Right now it's coming in at around a 48% chance to see some of the snowfall amounts through Friday. Okay, this will take us through Friday, so give it a couple of days to come in at around an inch, and then those numbers are far less than that across eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. This next graphic is saying, well, what about the probability of seeing at least 3 inches of snowfall? That too shows up in Rapid City. It's around let's just say a 1 in 4 chance of seeing around 3 inches or more of snowfall. But you do notice that orange around Lead, Deadwood, pretty good chance that they will see a couple of inches of snowfall. Just how much? We'll have to wait and see. But right now, one of the computer models suggesting snowfall amounts for the higher elevations of the hills can come in at around 2 to maybe 4 inches. You do see that for Deadwood, areas to the south and to the southwest can end up a little higher than that. We even have Sturgis coming in at around 2 to 4, Spearfish at 1 to 2. So this is the reason why I mentioned that, we can give some love to those live cams across western South Dakota over the next couple of days with these snow showers moving through. You see Rapid City coming in around 1 to maybe 2 inches on that snowfall range, and then the amounts do taper off to less than an inch. We're talking Hill City, Keystone, Mount Rushmore area, down toward Custer. So those amounts there will come in at less than an inch. And we'll continue to follow the new information that comes in. Then we'll watch this weekend. I already explained high pressure coming in from the north for Friday. That will help bring in a reinforcing shot of some colder air. So what will happen is as we slowly, and I mean slowly, warm these temperatures this weekend, trying to get back to the 30s, low 30s in parts of eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. Not for everybody, but we'll see if we can get back to the lower 30s by Sunday. It won't happen right away this weekend. I think it will hold off until Sunday. So as we bring in that warmer air holds a little bit more moisture. So we slowly kick out the cold air, and then we overrun that with some warmer air with a little bit more moisture into that air. That's the reason why it's trying to spit out this light wintry mix in central and north central South Dakota. That's during the afternoon on Saturday. Could be a light wintry mix. Some of the computer models suggesting maybe around 1/10 of an inch of liquid moisture. So moisture is very limited with this. This will move east as we go through the afternoon and evening. We can probably hold off a majority of the day for southeastern KELOLAND with a chance of seeing some snow showers. I think much of the day in the southeast will probably end up being dry. It's late in the day that we can introduce the snow shower chances across southeastern KELOLAND. Things will happen a little sooner to the north. From Watertown, Aberdeen, we may see some snow showers try to develop maybe around the midday hour or shortly thereafter. And then this is interesting to see. Notice how it's bringing in this green, which the model is trying to tell us that it will be rain. This is interesting to see because we'll see what goes on with our temperatures. It can come in as rain in the higher layers of the atmosphere, but what happens is we have temperatures that are below freezing? Well, then it becomes freezing rain or freezing drizzle with this wintry mix. So that can lead to some slick spots by Sunday morning. If you have an early morning commute on Sunday, pay attention to those roads across eastern South Dakota, maybe along the James River Valley. We could have a period or two of some freezing drizzle or freezing rain with this wintry mix trying to move through. So we'll continue to follow what happens with our temperatures and precipitation. As this clipper dives to the southeast, notice how it brings in that chance for rain, maybe some snow into parts of southeastern KELOLAND. As, again, those temperatures in the higher layers of the atmosphere will have to be watched. They'll probably end up being a little bit warmer than what's going on at the surface. And then a lot of this leaves the area by the afternoon hours on Sunday. And I zoomed in on parts of central and eastern KELOLAND here for the weekend because western South Dakota probably ends up staying mostly dry with temperatures warming to the 40s for afternoon highs in and around Rapid City. We'll have details on some cold that may return. We've talked about Friday, but it may return as we get into next week. Try to show you what days that can happen as we continue with Weather or Not. Stay with us. Welcome back to Weather or Not. So we've been advertising that, forecasting, however you want to put it, that we will kick out this cold air as we get into that first week of February. Lo and behold, I wake up, check the computer models, and saying, hey, not so fast. We may see some colder air try to return Monday and Tuesday. And we'll go through what we're watching, what the models are showing right now for Monday, Tuesday. Then after that, temperatures do warm. I mentioned it on KELOLAND this morning. Day 10, that takes us out to, next Friday, February 6th. Out of the 10 forecast models that I look at, 9 of the 10 forecasting at least a temperature of 40. The warmest temperature coming in on the forecast model was 47. So 9 of those 10 models that I look at in that extended forecast suggesting temperatures in the low to middle 40s. So that is still expected to come in with warm numbers as we go through that first week of February. But we may, take a step forward for Sunday and then, step 1 or maybe 2 steps back Monday, Tuesday. Okay, I'll show you what I mean coming up here in a bit. So we are looking at those cold temperatures to remain with us as we go through the first half of the weekend, and then numbers will eventually slowly start to warm as we do get into Sunday. So you do notice the below average temperatures across central and eastern KELOLAND. So that's a look at Friday. As that high pressure system sinks to the south, there's that warm front going through North Dakota, and that will eventually bring in the warmer weather for us. That will probably hold off until the second half of the weekend. Now, in the meantime, I've mentioned this plenty of times on KELOLAND this morning. The wind chills, sure, we could have our wind chills in the minus single digits for a couple of these mornings, such as this morning. Very light winds, but air temperatures are still, near zero, or were near zero across eastern South Dakota. You throw in any wind, and that wind chill fell to the minus single digits. For Friday morning, we'll have that reinforcing shot of cold air from the north. Winds will start to pick up a little. Expect wind chills in the minus teens and minus 20s. We will return to that for Friday morning. Okay, it won't stay long. We are looking at improving conditions as we do go through this weekend. And I talked about our snow chances along with it on Saturdays. Those warmer temperatures eventually start to come in. Well, I looked at the numbers again for the first half versus the second half. And, what Brian and I were saying earlier is still holding true. The second half of January is looking much cooler than the first half. We'll see if we go through the same thing in February. I wonder if February will show the same thing, we'll actually have the same thing, or maybe it will change week by week. We'll see. Meaning, much of the first half will end up being warm, and then we'll see what happens, or much of the first week will end up being warm, and then the second week can cool, and then we just go back to being warm again the third week, and then the fourth week of the month, we may end up being cool. That's what this is actually showing. By the 10th and the 11th, bringing in the cold air again with temperatures well below average. In fact, maybe I should show that now. Here's a look at the computer models here for Sioux Falls, and this is just a look off of the European deterministic. So it's just one model run. I mentioned that hit of cold air. You can see that trying to come in Monday, Tuesday with the highs there in the teens and 20s. And then it's after that as we get into midweek, a week out from now, Wednesday of next week, high of 30. Let's go to 37 Thursday. And there's that 44 on Friday. So this is one of the models suggesting temperatures in the 40s for the 6th of February. And then the weekend gets here, and it does cool a little bit. Look at this, 52 on Monday. That's ahead of that blast of some colder air that I just showed you on the model. In fact, let me go back to that graphic just so I have that one up in case I want to go back to it. I think that just goes and plays out until we hit the 10th and the 11th. So here's a look at that website again. There's 52 Monday. So that's February 9th. We have to get into the second week of the month. After that, look what happens. 2 days later, we're down to 15. We'll see if we get an overnight low below zero again. So that's the 11th of February, and that goes back to this graphic here, suggesting that much colder air will eventually start to pour in. Let me go ahead and see if I could change the view on this. Yeah, there we go. Warming again. Maybe cross-polar trying to come in, though some of the cold there is in Alaska as well. Oh, no, Alaska's warming. See that right here. So that's an Alaskan connection. Just pours that cold air in across the upper plains. So, yeah, things are slowly coming together to see another hit of cold air. Just how cold is it expected to be by then? Well, as I showed you here, some of those numbers will fall to the teens for highs, much like what's going on at the beginning of the forecast right here with numbers in the middle teens. So, again, we'll see if we end up going back and forth, a week-by-week basis. That's the way it may end up being as we get into the month of February. I'll have more on this weather pattern, the sloshing of this air going back and forth, and even talk about maybe some snow chances coming up as we continue with Weather or Not. Here we are in our last segment of Whether or Not, and you guessed it, it's about the weather pattern. So let's go ahead and jump right into it for the next 2 weeks. What do we expect to see? This is a graphic that we've been showing a lot, but I actually have the surface features on here. We know about the cold coming in Friday. There's the clipper trying to bring in some warmer weather for this weekend. There's that hit of cold for Tuesday. That's ahead of the other clipper that is trying to move through. In fact, let me go ahead and play this again. So here comes the cold on Friday. Here comes the clipper from the northwest. That will bring in a quick hit of some warmer air. That runs through. And then did you see where that high pressure system came from? Came from straight from the north. Okay, it started with above average temperatures. And then as it started to settle in, those numbers fell a little bit below. So we'll see if this one holds true with bringing in, I'll call it slightly cooler air, maybe around the second, third of the month, but it doesn't last. There's another wave in the atmosphere, okay, that moves through KELOLAND during the same time frame. So we'll see if this one holds true. That's why I have the question marks there. I'm not sold on it yet. We'll have to watch it. Moisture will be very limited with it. And then after that, that's when these temperatures will start to warm. I mentioned before that these numbers will try to get back to seeing these temperatures being well above average. A good possibility that 40-degree weather will return by the 6th of the month, maybe a little sooner. But right now, I would just say the 6th of February is looking like the best chance we could have temperatures back to the 40s in eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. It'll happen a lot sooner across western and South Dakota. In fact, if I do have time, I'll try to show you the forecast there for Rapid City, because 60s were showing up into that location. Well, here's our snowfall outlook for the next 2 weeks. Now, I stopped it here on Monday. Well, actually, that's Groundhog Day, the 2nd of February. So it brings in the snows that we have for the next couple of days in the western South Dakota, what's expected for this weekend across eastern KELOLAND. And then there's that hit, that Tuesday time frame. And notice how it fills it in again. And then after that, I would say it's rather subtle, probably along the leading edge of that colder air that comes in around the 10th or the 11th. That can squeeze out some snows. That was the European model. Now, the American model, much like what it was doing yesterday, notice how it has that gap or that donut with mostly dry conditions in eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa. It was doing that again yesterday, and it's doing it today, while western South Dakota will have their snow chances over the next couple of days, and that does spill into central and south central South Dakota. So we'll see what happens with our snow chances over the next 2 weeks, but I'm more interested to see what happens with our temperatures. And if our temperatures continue to go up and down, well, yeah, we will continue with these quick hits of snow. But I wanted to show you this. This is Rapid City. I mentioned the 60s may return. It's trying to point to that around the 5th and the 6th of the month. So we could have a mild weather quickly return across western South Dakota. And then look what you notice on the 11th, on the tail end of everything. See how it just plummets to a high temperature of 20. So during that second week of the month, and we'll see what it shows tomorrow. We'll see if it holds the cold. But we'll see what it shows tomorrow. But that's the way it's looking right now. I do want to say thank you for joining us on this latest edition of Whether or Not. Have yourself a great day.